everybody, Trevor here, and I'm back with my King Louis avatar. It's that time of year where we celebrate Disney's 102nd anniversary. And for this month, we'll be talking about my top 5 worst Disney sequels of all time. Before we begin, it's time for a little history lesson. Ever since the huge success of Aladdin in 1992, Disney decided to release a direct-to-video sequel known as The Return of Jafar, which also serves as the pilot for the Aladdin TV series. And in my opinion, it's an okay sequel, but it does have its major flaws in terms of animation quality and plot holes. But the only best thing about this sequel is Iago's redemption arc for much of the film. And since then, Disney has been making countless direct-to-video sequels until the late 2000s, with Ariel's Beginning being the last one produced. And afterwards, they stopped making them thanks to people like John Lasseter, who was the head of Pixar at the time. But for today, we'll be talking about the worst of the worst when it comes to the Disney sequel library. And for this list, I won't be including sequels to Disney live-action remakes or any of the more modern theatrical releases such as Frozen 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. This video is only for the direct-to-video and DVD sequels, even though a few of them were released in theaters a long time ago. So without further ado, let's begin this crap fest. Coming at number 5 is The Little Mermaid 3, Ariel's Beginning. In my opinion, this is the weakest of the original Little Mermaid trilogy. I thought the second one wasn't all that great, but this one is even more dumb and boring. Not only are the songs forgettable and bad, but the main villain is so dumb and cartoony that I can barely take her seriously. Not to mention that the humor is not that funny, except maybe that one part where they make fun of the scene from the first movie. Though, to be frank, at least this was the final sequel in the direct-to-video library, but it wasn't really that great to begin with. Oh, and I also liked the backstory of how Ariel's mother Athena died from getting killed by an oncoming ship, which led King trying to have a prejudice against humans to begin with. Now, despite the few positives with this movie, it's still a boring and quite forgettable experience when compared to the first two movies. I suggest you avoid this one at all costs because of its forgettable songs, dumb humor, dumb characters, and badly written storyline. Number 4 is The Fox and the Hound 2. This is a midquel to the original Fox and the Hound movie from 1981, and boy oh boy was it terrible. While the animation quality in this was good, and I liked the scene where Amos Slade and Widow Tweed get along and work together to find their lost pets. However, that doesn't excuse the fact that this midquel sucks. Let me explain why. It's basically filler, and the songs are very dumb and forgettable, especially that Good Doggy No Bone musical number, which I find cringe. While I do find the original Fox and the Hound movie very sad and very average, but at least I can appreciate it now because it's basically a cute and charming story about a fox and a hound being friends with each other in their youth, but were meant to be enemies to begin with. It's kind of like the Prince of Egypt in a way, where Moses and Ramses were the best of friends at the beginning, but had to turn against each other in the second act just so Moses can free the Hebrew slaves from the Pharaoh's clutches. But in Fox and the Hound 2, it's just boring and dull, and not to mention that it was only made just to make money, just like every single godforsaken direct-to-DVD Disney sequel back then. So yeah, I would avoid this movie at all costs and just go watch the original from 1981 instead. Sure, it's tear-jerking, but hey, at least it's better than the original novel where Todd dies at the end. Coming at number 3 is The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. Before I start ranting about this atrocity, I just want to give one positive thing about it. I don't mind the fact that Quasimodo gets a girlfriend in the end because I kind of felt bad for him in the first movie where Esmeralda decides to be with Captain Phoebus instead of him. Though I can understand why some people may disagree with me on that. Unfortunately, that's the only good thing about this sequel. The rest of it sucks. Not only that the animation is a downgrade when compared to the first movie, but the story makes no goddamn sense. For example, why would a bell named La Fidèle have a shiny inside full of jewels in various colors? If the bell were to ring like that, then chances are it won't ring very well with all that junk inside. Also, some of the supporting characters like Captain Phoebus were completely out of character. I mean, why would he find circus performers suspicious when he himself married a gypsy named Esmeralda? He should already know that not all of them are evil. Man, was he an idiot. Not to mention that the new villain, Sarouche, is such a weak and generic villain when compared to the tyrannical Claude Frollo from the first movie. I know he's supposed to be a narcissist, but I'm sure there are plenty of narcissistic villains out there who are much better than this guy. Like Gaston, for instance. I know I feared the first movie when I was little, but compared to its trashy sequel, it makes me want to go back and rewatch the original from 1996 in terms of its beautiful animation quality, great characters, great story, memorable songs, and a more satisfying ending. All of which that the second movie never had. Oh, and did I forget to mention that Haley Joel Osment as Zephyr was so annoying in this movie? Here's a fun bit of trivia. According to Yahoo AI, the movie was delayed due to production challenges and standard issues, which does explain why Haley Joel Osment sounded very young at the time of this movie's production. Seriously, I liked him better in other roles like Sora from the Kingdom Hearts series, just to name one. So, all in all, I'd stay away from this one and rewatch the first movie from 1996. Trust me, it's for your own benefit. I know it's scary, but it's 10 times better than the original novel by Victor Hugo, which was very depressing with the main characters dying at the end. Number 2 is Mulan 2. This is my second least favorite sequel for many reasons. For one thing, most of the characters are either dumb or just mean-spirited, especially Mushu, who decides to be the main antagonist for some stupid reason. I mean, he's supposed to be a comic relief, not a villain. Oh, and how can I forget the annoying songs like I Want to Be Like Other Girls? Sure, it had a decent start, but then it got so much worse in the end. Now, I could play the song just to prove a point, but due to copyright issues, I want to avoid a claim and a strike. If there's one positive thing I liked about Mulan 2, it would be the animation quality. It's good for the most part, but it does have its hiccups here and there, like the part where Li Shang yells at Mulan like a cartoonish character. But the worst part of this sequel are the writing, the plot holes, and the dangerous message. It has this Mongolian invasion subplot, which for some odd reason, the characters forgot about in the end. And there's this one plot hole where Li Shang somehow survives after a long fall into the abyss, which makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. Look, I know this is a kid's movie, and we don't want any of the main characters dying, but come on! There are plenty of characters like Mufasa from The Lion King who died after falling off a cliff. So what gives? The viewers aren't morons, Disney! No wonder this movie gets the number 2 spot. The writing is terrible, the direction is terrible, the action is quite forgettable and boring when compared to the first movie, the songs are dumb, the characters are loathsome, and the worst part is, after everyone gets together in the end, they somehow forget all about the Mongolian invasion, which was supposed to happen in the story, but somehow they forget all about it. China is at stake, folks! It's in danger! The Mongolians are gonna invade it pretty soon! You guys are made us stupid! This is why we need to use our brains, writers, because kids seriously deserve better movies than this. And this is also why I prefer the first movie, as it was one of my sister's favorite movies as a kid. Before I get to my number 1 pick, I just want to give a bunch of dishonorable mentions. The Jungle Book 2. I honestly think it's meh, but not as memorable as the first movie because it basically showcases throwbacks from the last movie over and over again, and it gets tiring after a while. The Little Mermaid 2: Return to the Sea. While this movie is meh as well, but it had potential to be very good, if Ariel wasn't so overprotective of her daughter, and if Morgana wasn't such a cheap rehash of Ursula. The Return of Jafar. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's average, but the best thing about this movie is Iago's redemption arc, and I always liked him better as a reformed character anyway. Beauty and the Beast: The Enchanted Christmas. While I do understand why this movie sucks, but Tim Curry as Forte is the best part of this movie in my opinion because of his villainous performance as the character. Pocahontas 2: Journey to a New World. As bad as this one is in terms of historical inaccuracies, at least Pocahontas got to marry James Rolfe at the end of the movie, just like in real life. But when it comes to animation quality, it's still not as good as the previous movie. Kronk's New Groove. I was going to put this on here, but since I like Kronk in general, I'm going to be nice by making this as an honorable mention instead. Or dishonorable mention, I should say. But it's still not as good as the first movie. 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. While I do prefer the first movie as well as the first two live action adaptations, but this one gets a small pass for me because I liked how the animation quality mostly stays true to the original movie, but still, the movie itself could have been better if it had better direction. Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure. It also seriously would have been number 4. Number 1 is a three-way tie. Belle's Magical World, Cinderella 2, and Atlantis Miles Return. I was actually having a really hard time trying to decide which of these three is the worst. But because these were only made to be pilots for possible TV shows, I thought I'd put them all in one big spot. Let me explain why these are the worst. If you thought Beauty and the Beast and the Enchanted Christmas was bad to begin with, you haven't seen Belle's Magical World yet, which was a much more boring midquel with very cheap animation, annoying characters, bad writing, and the same moral about saying sorry to one another over and over again. Oh, and by the way, no offense to Anne Rogers, but she does not sound like the original Angela Lansbury at all when it comes to Mrs. Potts. Cinderella 2 Dreams Come True is no different either. While its animation quality is better than Belle's Magical World, it's still a dull and boring film that's easily skippable. But hey, at least Cinderella 3 was a massive improvement over this, and I didn't mind the parts where Anastasia reforms in both sequels. But that doesn't excuse the overall poor writing and direction of the second movie. As for Atlantis Miles Return, I find this one to be the most confusing of the bunch, even as a kid at the time. But then I learned that it was basically a few episodes packed into one big movie, which makes things even more confusing. Say what you want about the return of Jafar, Tarzan and Jane, and Buzz Lightyear's Star Command The Adventure Begins, but at least they're successful enough to spawn a TV series. But for these three, on the other hand, they're just so dull and boring, and not very well written either. I highly suggest watching their respective first movies as well as Cinderella 3 A Twist in Time, because they're much more entertaining than these. Now let me know in the comment section below which Disney sequels you hate the most. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? Also, I might make top videos on my all-time favorite Disney movies and sequels in the future as separate videos, but the thing is, I've already made a top 5 animated sequels video and a top 10 favorite childhood films video from years ago, so I don't know if those are going to happen again unless if I get enough requests to make them. This is Trevor Davis signing off, and I hope you all have a great month in October.